Good morning, everyone, and once again, I welcome you back to the English online classes. My dear students, we people are doing that chapter Ivan tries an O level, and as I have told you people earlier also that this chapter is quite a lengthy one, and because I keep on recalling the chapter or recalling what we have done in the previous videos, it's taking a long time. So instead of going to a proper feedback, a long feedback, I will cut it short, and what we have done in the previous video I'll say in very short, and we'll continue with the next part. So as we have seen in the previous video that the story is about a prisoner named Ivan who wishes to give the German O level and language examination, and since he is the prisoner, the governor of that prison asked the secretary of the examination board a permission to let him give the examination, which was granted. And after it was granted, the arrangements were made, and because Evans was a very simple person according to the governor, that he is not having any kind of a murder history, robbery history, anything of that sort, except the fact that he suffers from kleptomaniac. But the only drawback was that his name, or he was nicknamed as Evans the Escape, because already thrice he had escaped from the jail, and this time governor didn't want the examination to be an excuse for him to escape from the jail. So the governor made sure that he had taken all kind of measures of security so that Ivan never gets a chance to escape from there. Further, we have seen that the arrangements were seen by two of the superintendents, or two of the prison officers actually, and these two prison officers, they are Jackson and Stephens, and Jackson is one of the senior officer, whereas Stephen is a newly recruited prison officer, and they had been going through the cell very thoroughly in which Ivan was living, as well as was going to give the examination. And in this, they have not even left any chance of any kind of possible weapons to be used by Ivan's to escape from there, like nail scissors were removed, razors, filers, everything was removed from there. We have also come across some heated debate between Jackson and Ivan, where everything settled down after Ivan has turned little calm. And one particular moment we found that Jackson wanted him to remove the bobble hat that he was wearing on, which was looking very dirty, but Ivan wanted to keep it as a lucky charm. The invigilator to come over there was a parson, a priest, who left his flat on the day of the examination in the morning. And when he came out, he was wearing a long black overcoat, he was wearing spectacles, and he was wearing a clerical flat hat which was giving protection to the spectacles against the drizzling. And he was carrying a brown colored suitcase as mentioned in the story, and in the suitcase there were certain items. What were those items? That also I would like to list out, because that is of some priority. And those items were, first of all, it was an yellow invigilation, an yellow question paper envelope, then invigilation letter was there, yellow color paper was there, then an authentication letter card was there, then paper knife was there, Holy Bible, and the church times, the newspaper. These were the things he was carrying in that. And while all those things were carried here, the cell and all was being prepared with the arrangement of the table and chair, as I have already explained twice to you how the chair and table arrangement was done in that cell. And then after that, the invigilator, there was again conversation between Jackson and Evans, and Jackson asked him to behave properly during the time of examination, because everyone is going to keep an eye on him. And then the priest arrived in the jail, means for the invigilation purpose, and then he was there in the first outer door. Then after that he was taken to the d-wing is the place where Ivan was kept. Then after passing through the outer and the inner door of the d-wing, they reached front of the cell where Ivan was, where he was brought by Stephen. And then Stephen showed him how Ivan was sitting down inside. And then meanwhile the governor, he had switched on the microphones. You know that I have already told that there were no CCTVs, but there were the microphones and the speakers. And Ivan already knew that he is been bugged for this examination purpose to keep an eye on him. And uh, governor, he had already thought of listening to them. Meanwhile, suddenly you can say that because the things were going on in his mind regarding the examination and not letting Yvonne escape from there, suddenly an idea or a thought crossed his mind that what if by mistake McClary had brought something which can be used as a weapon by Ivan, and Ivan can use him as a hostage to go out of the jail. So, because of that reason, immediately he picked up the receiver and spoke to Jackson. And Jackson ran to the cell and he asked Reverend McClary to step out along with Stephen, and the purpose was to give a thorough checkup to him. And then they started checking up Reverend McClary, who cooperated very well. And at one particular moment, he even touched the he even touched the part where it felt a little hard. And then, so as I was saying that McClary was cooperating very well with them, and suddenly Jackson, while he was just checking up, he found something hard, and he asked, and he said that it's his spectacle case. And then after that, he asked about checking the suitcase, and he opened it. And if you remember, when he left the flat, six items were there. But when the suitcase was opened up by Jackson, and Jackson had a thorough checkup of the question paper envelope, the yellow paper, then the authentication card, Holy Bible, then the newspaper. Then he found another thing which surprised him a lot, and it was a rubber ring. The kind which during the swimming time the beginners they put around their waist so that they don't drown. And it was semi-inflated, means it was filled with some liquid item. And he asked jokingly that whether you are planning to go for a swimming. This joke or this question, you can say that it made our Reverend McClary little angry, and till now the way how he was behaving very peacefully, or you can say very cooperative way, he suddenly become little sour. And sour in the sense that distasteful he became in talking. And he said that actually he's suffering from piles, and if he has to sit down for long hours, he has to use that. And Jackson felt very embarrassed, and he just kept the thing back. And then he saw the paper knife over there. So according to the count, seven items were there. When he saw the paper knife, he requested that he would like to keep it with him, and he took it out from there. Then McClary went inside, and there was a few exchange of talk between them regarding instructions and all those things. And then um, our Reverend McClary asked Yvonne to start the examination, and Yvonne said that with Stephen standing right over there over his head, he can't. He is feeling suffocation and all those kind of things. And then governor was hearing it also. He just called up Jackson and he asked him to remove Stephen from there, and Stephen was asked to come out. Now 9:25, 9:15 the exam was supposed to start, and now it has become 9:25. Already 10 minutes up it was, and then it was 9:25, and there was total silence over there. This is what we have done in the previous class, and now let's continue with the rest. At 9:40 a.m., the examination board rang through, and the assistant secretary with special responsibility for modern languages asked to speak to the governor. The examination had already started, no doubt, a quarter of an hour ago. Yes, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. Very brief. Could the governor please? Yes, of course. I'll put you straight through, Mr. Jackson and Dewing. Hold the line a minute. 9:25 exam started. Scheduled to start at 9:15. 9:40 exam started. And when 9:40 it was, 9:25 exam started and 9:40 it was, suddenly the phone rang. And when he picked up the phone, he found that it was from the examination board. And some assistant secretary called. Okay, not the same fellow with whom he had spoke when he took permission. And this assistant secretary is having the responsibility of modern languages. Modern languages means other languages other than the regional language it meant over here. And then he asked the governor, exam started or what? Then the governor said, "Yeah, a quarter means 15 minutes past." And the secretary, assistant secretary, he informed governor that actually there is some correction in the question paper, and one slip was made. But when giving the envelope of question paper, that slip was not put in that. So that one stupid type of work has been done from the board side, so correction has to be done. So if you can please. Then governor said, "Yeah, yeah, why not, definitely." And then he attached that line to Jackson in the D wing. He asked him to hold for a minute. Was this the sort of thing the governor had feared? Was the phone call a fake? Some signal? Some secret message? But he could check on that immediately. He dialed the number of the examination board but heard only the staccato bleeps on a line engaged. But then the line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes, not very intelligent that. Now, if you have got a doubt in your mind, definitely it keeps on pinching you, nagging you again and again in different way. Governor was very worried because already thrice he had escaped and he don't want to give him a chance again. So governor was extra cautious that nothing wrong must happen. So he started thinking this call which came now from the examination board, what if it is a kind of a signal or a secret message? Or otherwise, if not from the examination board but from somewhere else. Then he thought that, oh, I can check that. With other phone, I'll call up the examination board. So he did that. And what he got? That long engaged tone that comes now when you call someone and the phone is busy. That is what is staccato bleeps. That noise came there. And obviously, the governor thought and the governor understood that the examination board people are talking here. So obviously the engaged tone came. So sorted out. 2 minutes later, he heard some whispered communication in the cell, and then McClary's broad Scots voice. "Will you please stop writing a little while, Mr. Evans, and listen carefully? Candidates offering 02 German 0211 should note the following correction. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read Goldenen, not Goldini, and the whole phrase will therefore read Zam Goldinen Lomen, not Zam Goldini Lomen. I'll repeat that. The governor listened and smiled. He had taken German in the sixth form himself, and he remembered all about the agreements of adjectives, and so did McClary by the sound of things, for the minister's pronunciation was most impressive. But what about Evans? He probably didn't know what an adjective was. Now, while he had already striked out that doubt which he had in his mind that whether it is a fake call and all, meanwhile, after 2 minutes, he heard some talking in the cell. What was that? That was that correction slip being read out by the invigilator, means Reverend McClary. And McClary was asking Evans to hold a minute and listen to the correction, and then he said which line, which word, what replacement has to be done. Okay, and governor, he understood it is correct because governor himself in one of his classes had taken German language when he was studying, taken German language for learning purpose. Because of that reason, he understood that it is correct, that correction which has been done. And McClary, he believed that was really very good because his accent and his pronunciation was really very good. And then he thought whether Evans, he really understood anything or not. The phone rang again, the magistrate's court. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers, remand case, and within 2 minutes the governor was wondering whether that could be a hoax. He told himself not to be so silly. His imagination was beginning to run riot. Evans. Now again the phone rang. And this time when the phone rang, it was from the magistrate's office and they were asking for a prison van and some prison officers because some kind of a remand case, means the prisoner was taken out on a remand case or something from one place to another. And that's why they wanted the prison van. Governor again started thinking whether it is again a fake call, whether it is a kind of a hoax, a fake thing. But then he said that, oh, his mind is running wild. And all the reason for all this thing is Evans. Let's see how the exam was going on. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutifully peered through the peephole at interval of 1 minute or so, and after that, every 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right as he looked through the peephole once more. It took 4 or 5 seconds, no more. What was the point? It was always more or less the same. Evans, his pen between his lips, sat staring straight in front of him towards the door, seeking, it seemed, some sorely needed inspiration from somewhere. And opposite him, McClary, seated slightly askew from the table now, his face in semi profile. His hair, as Stephen had noticed earlier, amateurishly clipped pretty closely to the scalp, his eyes behind the pebble lenses peering short-sightedly at the church times, his right index finger hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar, and the fingers of the left hand, the nails meticulously manicured, slowly stroking the short black beard. Okay, my dear students, now this particular scene you will have to imagine that how the cell might be looking and how these people were sitting down inside and what was Stephen watching from outside. For the first quarter of an hour, means for first around some half an hour something, half an hour to 1 hour, Stephen was very dutifully watching. Means there was a peephole. You don't know what is a peephole? Like how a keyhole is there in a door. Yes, like that only, a peephole through which you can just peep. You don't have to open the entire door. So through the peephole, he had been watching what is going inside. In the beginning, he did in every 1 minute. Then it became every 2 minutes. See, what happens is it's a normal tendency, 10:45 a.m. everything was still the same. He says. Actually, what happens is that when you are on a watch guard, okay, you're watching something, and you have been told to keep a very close watch, a proper watch. At that time, you'll keep on watching it, no doubt. But when you find that the things appears to be same every time that you watch it, automatically that that security, or you can say that particular watching, that reduces, that scrutinifying the thing reduces, or you can say that you become a little more lenient towards that duty of yours as a watch guard. Here also same thing. Whenever Stephen used to peep inside, he was getting the same picture. What was the picture? Ivan sitting down with a pen between his lips and looking straight, like as if though some magic should happen and he should get the answer. And opposite to him, means back towards the door, McClary was sitting down, and he was sitting a little askew. Askew means not straight on the chair, a little sidewise, so that only the side face of his can be seen, not the entire back. Okay, side face of his can be seen, not the entire back. And now see the way how he's been described by Stephen. According to Stephen's, you can say that according to Stephen's watch, how he looks like, how he had described him. He described him like this, that his hair was amateurishly clipped pretty closely to the scalp. Means it looks like as if though some kind of an amateur barber had cut the hair, and it is like the hair had been cut so short that it looks like as if though it is sticking to the scalp of the head. Then the eyes were covered with the spectacles, and uh, through that he was reading that edition of that church times. And his right index, you all know what is an index finger, okay, with the right index finger, he was that right index finger he had hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar. You would have seen in the movies and all, a white color collar will be there, like how the Nehru collar is, like that, only one kind of a white collar the priest and all are wearing on. So his index finger was inserted inside that collar, like as if though he was scratching or something. And the fingers of the left hand, this was done by the right, and the fingers of the left hand they were means he was catching the newspaper, no? So they looked very neat and clean, means the nails were very nicely been cut and looked like as if though they had been cut very nicely. And then he was stroking means in Hindi you say sehlana. He was stroking his black beard. Then further it is said, at 10:50 a.m. the receiver crackled to life, and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for a few minutes. Please, sir, I'm not reading out the name of the people who are supposed to. Please, sir, would you mind if I put a blanket around me shoulders, sir? It's a bit parky in here, isn't it? Silence. There's one on me bunk here, sir. Be quick about it. Silence. Okay. 9:25 exam started. 9:40 call came from the assistant secretary. Then after that 10:45 when it was seen, it was all good. With Ivan with a pen between his teeth and then all those things. And then suddenly around 10:50 the speakers in governor's room crackled, and governor remembered, oh my god, I didn't pay attention to what's going on in the room. And then he could hear Ivan's voice. Ivan was asking a permission from the invigilator. He said to the invigilator that, please sir, can I cover myself with a blanket because it's slight cold. You can see it's given over here. It's bit pucky. It's a bit cold over here, and I'm having one over my bunk. He said. Then McClary, he said, okay, you do it little fast. At 10:51, okay, at 10:51 a.m., Stephen was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped round Ivan's shoulders, and he frowned slightly and looked at the examinee more closely. But Ivan's, the pen still between his teeth, was staring just as vacantly as before, blankly beneath a blanket. Should Stephen report the slight irregularity? Anything at all fishy? Hadn't Jackson said? He looked through the peephole once again, and even as he did so, Evans pulled the dirty blanket more closely to himself. Was he planning a sudden Batman leap to suffocate McClary in the blanket? Don't be daft. There was never any sun on this side of the prison, no heating either during the summer months, and it could get quite chilly in some of the cells. Stephen decided to revert to his earlier every minute observation. Okay, now he even asked for the blanket. Then McClary gave him the permission. And at 10:51, when Stephen looked inside, he was surprised because earlier when he had peeped inside, Ivan was not covered with a blanket, and now right now he was covered with the blanket. And then Stephen started thinking why he was covered with a blanket, and he looked at Ivan very closely, means very minutely he looked at him. See, this is a psychological way. If you show a person the same picture again and again, that picture somewhere fits into the mind, and the person who is watching in one way gets misleaded. Here also same thing. Ivan had given a picture of that pen between the teeth and gazing at one thing, or fixedly seeing something fixed, and that was there in Stephen's mind. But still that blanket gave a lot of thoughts to Stephen, that whether Ivan was trying to in any way use that blanket to cover it over McClary and then beat him badly or suffocate him. Then suddenly Stephen said he's thinking too much, because he knows himself that that side of the jail very rarely gets sunlight, even in summertime also. So generally that cells over there in that side of the jail is cold, and some cells are very cold, and because of that reason he might have asked for a blanket. So thinking that, Stephen, he decided that he will again go, he decided to revert to his, means to resume back his earlier every minute observation. So here we will give a halt and we will continue with the rest in the next class. Till then, goodbye and stay safe.